Now, I've admittedly gotten a little bit stuck in my ways over the years about how I like my instruments to be set up. I've got a very narrow view, a very narrow set of parameters that I will accept, and everything else is unacceptable to me. And it's 2020, it's a new year, and I thought I would try some new things. So naturally, I decided to reach back into banjo history and try a real leather head. And thankfully, I reached out to John Balch and I bought a head from him. He is an expert on all things hide heads, so I thought I would purchase my head through him. And just a quick caveat, I purchased the head with my own money. He didn't give me anything. This is a totally independent review, uninfluenced by anybody but my own opinions. So I purchased full retail a Menzies head from John Balch, and he sent it to me mounted, and I installed it. So the premise of this video is really simple. I have spliced together a performance of a tune with a Mylar head and then with a hide head so you guys can hear the difference back to back. I switch between heads back to back with the magic of studio editing, and that way you get a sense of how each of these heads sound on the instrument. So for the comparison to be fair, I went about it in a pretty scientific way. First of all, I used the same banjo. It's my Ohm Omega with a vintage tone ring. It's an 11-inch pot. The second thing I did was that I made sure I had brand new strings, Bill Keith medium lights for both heads. I switched them out so we could really hear the difference. The other thing I did was I played to a click track. So I played once through with the Mylar head, then I switched heads, switched strings, tuned up the head to the same pitch, which was a G, and played the same track against that click track so I could move between both performances with my editing software. So you can really hear side by side what these sound like. The other thing I did was that I made sure I played the song in the same relative way. I was fairly quiet and I was trying to play at a slower tempo than I normally would for this tune because I wanted you to hear what the notes sounded like. If I played fast, it was a little bit less apparent, or it was just moving by too quickly that you really couldn't sink your teeth into what made them different. So to take this even further into geekdom, I wanted to make sure I captured the most neutral sound I could possibly capture. So I used a single mono microphone, and the microphone I used was an Erland M. They're very clean, very natural sounding. To my ears, they're the closest I can get to an in-the-room kind of recording, and I used just one to avoid any stereo coloration or phase issues. And then I used my onboard Aurora N preamps. They're very clean. And then to convert from analog to digital, I used my Aurora N converter, which is known as being very transparent and neutral. Then in the software, in my DAW, I did not do any EQing or compression. I just raised the volume with a limiter. I caught a few peaks with the limiter. So this is going to be a little bit quieter than most of my videos because I didn't want any coloration of any plugins or any of that junk. I just wanted pure audio from the source. All right, without any further ado, let me show you the video. Stay till the end though, because I do discuss my opinions and I give you some tips and tricks at the end to help you if you want to do this with your banjo. All right, let's check it out. All right, let me tell you what I'm hearing here. For me, there is no comparison. I think the hide head is richer, it's warmer. It's also getting rid of the annoying tinkly sound that I am often looking to get rid of when I'm recording the banjo. I've tried lots of different mics and techniques to try to mitigate that really high frequency, annoying sound. And actually, this hide head has kind of solved the problem for me. So I'm really, really psyched about that. It's not that the Mylar head sounds bad. I actually think it sounds really good. It's just in comparison to the hide head, that Mylar head sounds a little bit more focused and it's accentuating higher frequency sounds than the hide head. So, and I wanted to avoid this adjective, but I have to just throw it out there. In comparison, back to back, the Mylar head to me sounds plasticky. I know that's not a really great descriptive term when you're talking about sound, but that's just the adjective that I keep coming back to when I listen to the playback. Now, a couple of things. I am no stranger to hide heads. I've used them lots before in the past. I've stretched my own, and it's been a bit of a nightmare, and I have steered well clear of them ever since because I really privileged consistency over all else. This hide head, some days it's a little bit different, so that consistency has been sacrificed. When I play the Renaissance head, it's the same banjo every single day. It does not change, and I've come to rely on that. I emailed John Balch, who is a very fine banjo player, and if you haven't heard his album, it's fantastic. Links below if you want to check that out. And he had a really nice response that kind of changed my mind about how I value consistency in my instruments. So he says that, yes, the hide head, it changes season to season as your humidity goes up and down wherever you live, as your AC or heating goes on and off. It does change, and he has come to sort of embrace that variability and look forward to it. And so that got me thinking, I need to be a little bit more understanding about this banjo as a collection of moving parts in this instrument ecosystem, and it's okay if they change a little bit. So I have come to enjoy that difference every day. It's a little bit different. I don't know quite what to expect, and I have noticed it's settled out over the time that I've installed it. So the other thing that I will say is that these heads are not cheap. This head was over $100, so that's the most I've ever spent on a drum head, and I am a former drummer who used to buy heads all the time and tune them and all that stuff. This is a very expensive head, but I will say this. I asked John about his process, and he takes days to do this. I've tried to stretch my own heads, and I will tell you it's a pain, and it's almost always impossible for me to get the crown height correct, which John, he nailed the crown height on the instrument, and so it works perfectly. The way John has figured out how to get a good crown height for the measurements of your instrument is that he's got jigs set up, he does pre-tensioning. It's days and days of work. I think it's actually a bargain for what you get, especially with how much it has changed my tone. The way he's mounted this head, it's just so well done. You can see here the crown, he signs it. It's just so professional. It's pretty ridiculous. We are living in the golden age of banjo-dom, and I hope you guys take advantage of it. It's really special to be able to reach out to experts like this who can really help you dial in your instrument. The other thing is, I think we can all agree it looks amazing. I think it looks fantastic. And yes, there is the ethical issue of having leather on your banjo. Totally get that. If people object to that, I can get behind that, and I totally understand why some people may not want that on their instrument. But for me, the flip side, the other cost is, do I want plastic on the banjo? And we all know the plastic industry is not the most ethical, so you are kind of in between a rock and a hard place when it comes to the materials themselves. So that's something that every individual will have to decide for themselves. For me, personally, I think it is an awesome thing for my banjo. I am ordering another one for my 12-inch ohm right now. So I'm sold. And we'll see. I will track how I do with these heads over time, and I will report back on the channel. There's a lot more material about this that I am going to be posting to Patreon for my patrons. So if you are interested, if you are curious about changing out your head on your instrument, I'm going to be providing a ton of information over on Patreon. There's a lot that didn't get into this video, including some questions that I asked John that just I'm not going to put in the video because it's already getting too long. Go check it out on Patreon, and I will see you next time on Banjo Quest.